Chapter 8: The Forbidden Magic. The portal spat us out onto boiling sand, with a blazing sun beating down on us. Anubis raised his eyes to me and saw I was holding in the screams as my flesh began to dissolve in the sun. The dragon noticed this too and lifted her wings, flooding me in shade. I sank to my knees and whispered, "Thank you, Nyxera. Just what I needed." I raised my finger to the sun and clicked. As if on command, the clear blue sky was heavy with clouds covering the burning sun. Seraphina materialized next to me and smiled. "I'm sure you know where we are, Lord Enadin. This Colosseum would be the best place to test your power." I gazed at Seraphina, confusion in my voice. "I thought we were here to get me ready for the gauntlet." Seraphina gazed at me. There was something in her eye I couldn't place. So, she said it as plainly as she could. "Don't think I haven't noticed. Your power comes from necromancy. That hyena at the start was killed by Osiris. A millennia ago, he killed it with ease. It's been dead since the start of time. But as soon as you came, it rose from the dead to challenge you. So I have brought you here to see if the champions of the dead will rise. Here you can raise the dead and use the gauntlet to rain hellfire down on them." I clicked my fingers and already the sand was beginning to shift. After a couple of minutes nothing happened. Then the Colosseum began to shudder as something huge came this way. The shakes grew bigger and bigger, the closer it came. A hand burst from the sand and it was bigger than any normal hand. After a few more seconds a titan emerged from the earth. Its eyes glaring at me with hatred. The titan stepped forward to attack. When I clicked my fingers and the titan froze on the spot, didn't move. I snapped my fingers and the titan followed me with his eyes. Seraphina shook her head. "I would like something bigger. You're not pushing your gauntlet nearly as hard as you should be. Let me show you." Seraphina clicked her fingers and for what seemed like an age it felt like I had gone deaf. When I regained my composure, I saw Lady Seraphina conversing with a hydra, its multiple heads swaying slightly in unison. Its eyes trained on me. Seraphina turned her head towards me and tilted her head with a smile. "Now you see. If you can make something bigger and better than my beast, then you will be ready for the next test. Good luck, my lord." The heads surged forward, each one hissing venomously. I drew Osriel's battle axe and launched myself towards the hydra, dodging each head gracefully. I brought the battle axe down on one of the hydra's heads, and a dull echo rang out. The hydra's head burst into flames, and from those ashes rose a phoenix. Its cool screeching music to my ears. Lady Seraphina laughed shortly. "Is that the best you can do, champion?" I concentrated as hard as I could, letting the demon blood flow through me. As the sky above stained deep crimson, I clicked my fingers and a dark silhouette blotted out the sky. There was a deafening screech and the leathery wing beats of some magnificent creature. A monstrous face peered from the cloud bank, eyes fixed hungrily on me. Its fat tongue flopped out its mouth and it garbled, "Feed me your powerful. Feed me powerful." I fixed my eyes onto the hydra and grinned. I pointed at the hydra. I waited but nothing happened. I turned my face up to the demon above me and snapped my fingers. The demon roared and made a grab for me. Lady Seraphina shook her head and shouted, "Can you kill it?" I should have mentioned that we were going to battle, but it looks like we may have to hold off. I held my hand up and snapped, "Silence, human. Do not interrupt whilst I work. You may think things have got out of control, but you see all I needed to do was feed my darling pet." I screamed in laughter as bits of my power fed the demon above me. Nyxera and Anubis glanced at each other, both in agreement that the demon above was bad news. The creature's hand rushed forward, grabbing the hydra by the head, tearing each one off like they were petals. Lady Seraphina launched a giant ball of fire at the demon, but it swallowed it like it was nothing. Then the demon turned it into an attack of his own. Lady Seraphina's eyes widened in horror as she could do nothing but stare. I jumped in front of her, a cocoon enveloping me. The ball of fire hit the cocoon and began to be absorbed. The flames diminished and the cocoon split. I stepped out cloaked in fire. I pointed at the demon and tore a hole right through its eye. A look of surprise flashed over the demon's face before falling slack and came crashing down with a heavy explosion of the Colosseum shifting a few centimeters. Lady Seraphina bowed and smiled. You did well for your first time. And I must thank you for saving me. Anubis and Nyxera walked either side of me, guarding me closely. The portal flashed into life before us and took us home in an instant. As expected, the gang were there to greet us eagerly. The first was Layla, who threw herself into my arms, nuzzling my neck. I hugged her tightly and tried to untangle myself, but she held on fast. I let my power go and I grinned. All right, everyone, bring it in. Everyone looked around and edged away. The person I least expected to join was Dina. Then slowly, one by one, everyone else joined, until all that was left was Enoch and Miasma. I turned my gaze onto them and laughed. There's enough room for two more. Dina turned her one arm into tentacles and wrapped up Enoch and Miasma and brought them within my grasp, and I pulled everyone into a bear hug. I grinned and released them. But it was short-lived, as my third eye flashed open. I spread my wings and burst forward, and tore open the door. Stood before me was the old man from the mountain on Kethos. He began quickly, "There is trouble on the island. Where is Lady Layla? She needs to hear this." Layla poked her head around the door and smiled. The old man took a step back and shook his head. "What fate has befallen you, my queen? What on this world has happened to you, my child?" The old man reached out his hand towards Layla when Anubis leaped between them, teeth bared, snarling at the man. The old man laughed and said, "Calm, O great lord of the dead, Lord Anubis, I am a friend of sorts. Our talents coincide with each other. You take care of the spirits in the afterlife and I help the ones who are lost." Anubis rose to his hind legs and struck the floor with his scythe. Anubis roared, "You do no such thing, shaman. You trap the souls for your own benefit. You should be asking them what they need to rest, not force them to do your will." Anubis slashed his blade forward, but the old man blocked every attack and skipped nimbly out of the way, before saying calmly, "I do no such thing, Lord Anubis. I have helped them and now they help me. They are not forced into anything. I do not hold any command over the spirits. But that is not the issue at hand. The issue is Queen Layla's island is being destroyed by legions of undead. My spirits are sadly useless against them." I placed a hand on Anubis's head, "As you may have noticed, shaman. Something has happened to Layla, but we are working on it. In the meantime, we can help with your little infestation problem." The shaman shook his head. "There is something very wrong. There's a different presence. One of horror and nightmares. I fear there may be casualties." I glanced around and saw everybody gearing up, even Layla. I stepped towards Layla and clasped her hands into mine. "Layla, listen to me. I don't want you going to the island. I can unleash my full power with you here. I will have Miasma stay behind with you to keep an eye on you." I kissed her forehead and motioned for Miasma to escort her away. I glanced at everyone and said, "If you wish to stay, you may do so. I don't wish to risk any of your lives." I got daggers from all directions of the room. And I nodded, smiling to myself. "I may not get on with a few of you, but you are all reliable. I love working with you all." I snapped my fingers and said calmly, to Kethos, "We are the last line of defense. Let's go." I was first on the island and I could feel the power the moment I stepped foot on the island. The power was a mix between all evil on the world and the worst nightmares had become reality. I heard the swarm of demons before I saw them, but that gave me just enough time to unleash the demon within. I raised my head to the heavens and roared, the echoes bouncing back towards the demons. They froze on the spot, refusing to move. I listened intently and sure enough something bellowed back, forcing the demons forward. I grinned impatiently and launched myself forward, tearing the minor demons to shreds. I was amusing myself for a few moments when I heard the ship grind to a halt. I grinned and shouted, "What took you? I've been waiting ages." The gang stared at the corpses of the demons and eyed me up suspiciously. Gabriel said quietly, "Is there anything here, besides demons?" I raised my finger and said, "Watch closely now." I bellowed into the air, but this time nothing answered. Instead, I felt an uneasy sensation wash over me. I looked back. Get back on the ship. Now. Go. A dark shape blasted out of the shadows of the trees, and I knew instantly what it was. Lady Seraphina's eyes widened in horror when she saw the creature. No, it can't be. I thought you were dead. The demon roared, and when it spoke it had the voice of the Demon King. Did you forget I existed? That's hurtful. But you do remember this demon though, right, Enadin? Lady Seraphina? Gabriel turned his eyes onto us. You know what this demon is. Then do you know how to destroy it? I nodded my head slowly. I manifested this demon. That was my training. But I killed the demon with the gauntlet. But I can't do much when Ammon has taken over the demon. Lady Seraphina whispered into my ear, you do realize the power you possess allows you to do the exact thing Ammon can do, right? All you must do is create another one and take over its body. We haven't tried the possession before, but it needs to work. For everyone's sake. Ammon vanished from before me and appeared behind Lady Seraphina, jaws opened as wide as his jaw would allow. I threw Lady Seraphina out of the way mere inches before the jaws crashed shut an instant later. Ammon closed his eyes briefly before saying to me, Child, I hope you realize that the gods have put you on a path that will lead you to your inevitable doom. I will only offer this one last time. Join me and we can locate the rest of these damned artifacts and we can crown a new Dread Lord. What say you, boy? I glanced back to look at the assembled gods, when Ammon grabbed my chin in his claws and pulled his fate close to mine. Don't make me ask again, boy. Speak. I looked Ammon deep in the soulless voids he calls eyes, and I drew a small fraction of my stored energy into a small but effective blow to Ammon's reinforced chest plate. Ammon staggered back slightly after his armor gave a sharp crack on impact. Ammon cocked his head to one side and launched his fist forward with the speed of a bullet, and I caught the blow full onto the face. I could have sworn I felt the bones in my face disintegrate and merge on a painful scale. Ammon looked at me slightly amused. I will say you had potential to become a great general under my command. But since you seem to cherish these half-breeds, then you should have no mind just fulfilling one of my desires. You can die with your pathetic family. Ammon threw back his head and sent a red-hot beam of lava sizzling straight for my head, followed by a flurry of jabs and hooks. Each hit found their mark, every one as powerful as the last. The gods were about to lunge forward to attack when I shot them a look. I snarled, Stay back. I mean it. Come any closer and I will kill you myself. Ammon stopped his attack to watch me closely. You do realize that I know you're up to something, my child. A grandfather knows. But I shall entertain you a while longer. You know you need the training. I felt rage bubbling deep down inside me and I tapped into it instantly. I grew before Ammon's eyes. But the downside was the larger I grew, the more energy I was consuming. Halfway through my transformation my energy failed and I fell to my knee, growling softly. I rose to my feet again and forced the transformation to continue at the expense of my health. As I began to feed on myself I could feel the power coursing through my veins. I completed the transformation and keeled over, clutching my head in agony. My bellows of pain reverberated across the valley. The pain in my head intensified the longer I held the form. Ammon looked shocked at the display before him and he sat on the floor, seemingly waiting for me to finish. Screams racked my body in waves as I tried to fight through the pain. I began clawing the flesh from my head, screaming, Get them out. They are crawling all over my mind. Anubis and Nyxera raced over, both whimpering at my condition. Nyxera turned an emerald eye onto the gods. Well, don't just stand there. Get Lady Layla here. Then we can work from there. Ammon yawned loudly and stretched. I take it this standoff is at an end. I'm bored and I feel like doing something fun. Through the thick veil of pain I focused on one thing. Ammon's voice. The more I heard it, the more my anger flowed. I rose to one knee, then the other and finally stood to my full height. I raised my head and roared furiously. I grabbed Ammon by the horns and brought my forehead down on his skull, and the demon lord laughed. Come now, that just tickles. I know you have more than that. I stood there on the spot, not moving an inch. The inside of my head was peaceful now, and that meant I was seeing clearly. And Ammon noticed too as he stood up and said, "Welcome back, grandson. Now we can finish this. I presume that's why you took that form?" Blackbeard entered the portal and ran straight for the garden, as that was where Layla spent her time when she wasn't being looked over by Miasma. Layla stood up as soon as she heard the door open. "Where is he, Edward? Where is Enadin?" She suited up in an instant and grabbed her gleaming sword. She whistled sharply, and a legion of the faceless warriors trailed behind her through the portal, and Blackbeard followed them. His mind thinking, she knew who I was in her panic. She remembered my real name. Layla took one look at me and screamed, and the scream woke me up just in time to dodge Ammon's barbed tail and look at Layla. "I have this under control. You need to leave Layla." I was distracted a second too long, and Ammon's tail wrapped around my neck and began to squeeze. Seraphina's face dropped and she screamed loudly, the power coursing off her in a way I never felt before. Her eyes burned a dark shade of jade. She powered up her gauntlet and began to advance. With each step forward she began to transform before my eyes. A golden aura surrounded her in a swirling mass, but her wings were scorched, the blackest night embers smoldering. "Demon! Unhand him this instant. You displease me and you should be destroyed. I command you as your mistress." Ammon gazed at Seraphina in confusion. "You must have me mixed up with someone else, child. The only demon snapping at your heels is this waste of flesh that I call a grandchild." Seraphina stopped mere inches away from Ammon. "Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Has your mind really gone that senile, O Great One? So do you not remember your plan? You were going to wait until the chosen hero obtained all the artifacts, and then you were going to kidnap him. Or what about when you tried to kill his mother by roasting her over a spit roast while your children feasted on her toes?" Roar! Ammon loosened his grip on my neck. "Wait a minute. Lilith, is that you? You look different. Oh damn, I just realized it's not what it looks like." Seraphina threw up a small glowing mass that began to turn into the most beautiful demon one had ever seen. The demon turned a cold, steely gaze onto me, and recognition flashed through both our minds. I turned my gaze back to Ammon, and I blurred forward and slammed full force into him, my horns plunging through his armored torso. I unsheathed the battle axe of Osriel. I tried to attack Ammon when the demon turned her gaze to me again. "Son, please don't annoy your grandfather. As you are, he could squash you, like a little bug. Is that your wish?" I bowed my head and pulled my horns from Ammon's chest. My mortal guise melted through my demon guise. Ammon laughed deeply. "You think it will be so easy for me, my dear? I could kill your son and be done with the problem here and now." Ammon raised his hoof into the air and was about to bring it crashing down on our heads when Lilith snapped her fingers and a blast of freezing air froze the bottom half of Ammon, and she unsheathed her scythe and the cold glint appeared in her eye again, and she spoke to Ammon. "Is that so, father? Then perhaps I may have been incorrect, and that your soul cannot be cleansed. For that you will be punished, but not now. It isn't the right time. We shall wait for Götterdämmerung, Judgment Day, before you fall to death."